Welcome to my quick tutorial for Robin Hood for the Commodore 64. This game's not too hard at all. It only took me about 23 minutes to beat. And I usually don't do tutorials for easy games, but since it's only about a 10-minute voiceover, it's not too bad to bang out some commentary and give some strategies, but it's a very simple game. So really all you need to know is that you need to progress upward on the screen, just keep moving up and firing, and that's the basic idea of the game. You have to get to the top of the tower and destroy the flag. There's going to be a tower at the end. Once you do that, the game loops. I didn't notice an increase in difficulty on the second loop. So when I got to the second loop, you'll see I was just fucking around. I wasn't really trying to beat the game a second time. My objective was just to get the game on my kill list, which means just beating the first loop. So that's all I was really going for. But I do fuck around a little bit afterwards. So this game does have bad hit detection, but you'll notice that all the enemies have very specific trajectories with their shots. So they all have the same trajectory. Every time you see them, they're going to fire their projectiles in the same way each time you see that enemy type. So when you see these tornadoes, they're always going to fire 4 diagonal shots. So as long as you're in the gaps, you're okay to take your shots and take them out, or just avoid them. Now the bats are the most dangerous enemies in the game. You see, the hit detection is so bad and they're so fast that a lot of times they just ram into you and kill you. Of course, it's one-hit deaths. So the bats are one of the most dangerous. Luckily, there's not a lot of bats in the game. But you see I died on the bat because it's just so hard to hit. The hit detection in this game is pretty fucking bad. You'll see arrows going through guys later. See? Right there, it's pretty clear. I bet if you pause that shit, you would see the arrows going through the bat and not killing it. Now, I believe the bats may only take one hit to kill, but I'm not even sure because they seem to randomly die from my arrows. I don't know how many. The game does not make any sound effect when a hit lands or anything like that. So it's hard to know how many hits the enemies are supposed to take because of the bad hit detection. Now, whenever there's parts like this where the knights rush you like this, or the dogs, I just run through. So you see I just ran through and I just dodge, reactively. So in those parts, I recommend just running through and reacting to it and running through. Now, if you're having trouble with some of those sections where you can't inch the screen slowly, you may lose a life in those sections. But luckily, you can earn some one-ups by killing enemies. So I recommend trying to kill all the enemies you can. Take your time. There's no timer. So remember, whenever an enemy appears, if you see an enemy that looks a certain way, that enemy is always going to have the same attacks. So they have no ability to try to shoot you from a different angle or anything like that. They're fixed in their positions. These blue guys, for example, can only shoot straight in the direction that they're facing. And these ones at the top can only fire straight down. So, they're very limited in their attacks. So there really is no challenge with that if you take your time. Now, of course, if you run through the game like the game wants you to, it could be a lot harder. So, same thing with these guys. These guys only shoot diagonally, these gray guys. So once you get outside of that range, you can just shoot at them normally. You're going to be using a lot of diagonal shots to take out enemies, too, from far away, as you see me doing, which doesn't really require much of an explanation. Now, you probably want to take out all these guys because they're easy targets. And remember, you get one-ups based on points. It's those little V's you see in the bottom left corner. So you'll probably want to kill as much extra enemies as you can to get those points. But you don't have to. It just depends how many lives you think you're going to need to beat it. Now you see I use this 10 as cover when that horde of knights comes out. And then I'm able to see a clear space and run through. There's like 3 sections like that where there's hordes of enemies. And for those parts I just run through. There's another part later where there's dogs. And I do the same thing there. Except I don't use cover with the dogs. Oh, I do a little bit. But I kind of zigzag through these barriers. You'll see that later. Like I said, a lot of the enemies, I think they take multiple hits, but I don't even know if that's the case because it's hard to know if the arrows are even connecting. I'm guessing it takes a few hits to take out some of the bigger enemies, but there's no sound effects to indicate. No, they don't flash. They don't show any damage or anything. And the hit detection is really bad. Sometimes I don't know if the arrows are even going through, so I got to adjust a little bit. Now, I got a little sloppy there and got hit by that arrow, but it's very easy to avoid those guys because they only fire straight down. So if you fuck that up, it's, completely your fault at that point. I wasn't too worried about it because there's enough lives to get through this. These guys only seem to take one shot for whatever reason, if you want to kill them. What I do is I just fire at them and retreat, obviously. I take a shot and then back off until I take them out. Most of these enemies, as you see, you can fire straight up or diagonally and take them out and just take your time. And you don't have to kill everything. You can ignore these enemies on the left side if you want. You don't have to kill them. But if you want some extra points, it's easy to do. It's really up to you how many guys you want to kill or what parts you want to run through. Because if you're good enough at the game, I'm sure you could just run through all the enemies, like a speedrun style. Though I don't know why you would want to this game. It's not too good. It's better than a lot of Commodore games, though, but it's not saying much. It just doesn't have that tight, control. I mean, the control is okay, I guess, but the hit detection is just too inconsistent for my taste. But other than that, I guess it's a decent game. But, hit detection is a big deal in a game where it's based on hitting enemies. That's kind of a problem. So this part is really not hard if you just take your time. Most of this game, like I said, is just taking your time and inching the screen, taking out enemies and playing carefully. That's all. And if you do that, you should be able to beat the game pretty easily. I did a practice run of the game with save states first to get a feel for the game, and then I beat it on my first attempt after that. I believe it was my first attempt after that, if I remember right. It only took me like 23 minutes, to beat it, and the run itself takes about 10 minutes, so probably only about 13 minutes of practice. So very easy. Though a lot of Commodore games, take under a minute or 5 minutes, so I guess this is a little harder than some of those. And then you have the Commodore games that are insanely hard because they just play so bad. Commodore is really a mix, but on Commodore there's a lot of easy victims. If you're looking to fill out a kill list like I like to do, there's a lot of easy victims on the Commodore games that take under a minute, like Hangman, and there's a whole variety of shit. But if you like to seek out easy shit, Commodore has tons of them. So for this is the part I mentioned about the dogs. I just play this reactively. I didn't really practice this. I just run through and just dodge and use the walls to dodge. Now, I did get killed on the dog because it came up a little bit too high on this tower. It's odd. You're climbing up a ladder, but somehow the dog is levitating or jumping or something and getting up there. So, when you hear the dog stop barking, you know that they're not around anymore. But I played it a little too close. Not that I really cared. I was near the end by this point. So once you get to this tower, it's pretty easy. You're not able to really take diagonal shots in this tower. So you're mainly going to just have to shoot straight up and dodge shit. Because even though it looks like you should be able to, you can't really move much on that ladder. You can move a little bit. There's a little leeway on the left side for you to move around, but you can't really do much with diagonal shots or anything on this part. It's mostly just going to be dodging and shooting straight up to take out the guys and the crows at the top. Now, with these guys that shoot the diagonal projectiles, there's a trick. If you want to dodge it, you want the projectile to graze the top of your head, but not make contact with you, but just graze the top of your head, basically. And as soon as it's passing, you're already pressing up maybe a millisecond or two before it passes your head. You're already kind of buffering the command because it's a tight space to fit into. So you got to be ready. Like as soon as you see it passing, you should already be pressing up and moving up. The timing might be a little tricky for me. It was kind of a typical bullshit that you pull in games, so it wasn't hard. But you may want to practice that if you're unsure of the timing. You may want to practice it with save states. Just do a practice run of the game once. If you have save states available, some emulators it's harder to do that. I was using RetroArch for this, and it makes save states pretty easy. Now, if I use Vice, it's a pain in the ass to do save states, but it can be done. But it's not quick. So for that, I probably wouldn't have even bothered if I was using that emulator. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is my attempt on the second loop, my sloppy attempt. Like I said, I wasn't taking it too serious. I was just kind of fucking around. This is the second loop. I didn't notice really much of a difference in difficulty. I could have easily beat this as well if I wanted to, but I didn't care. My goal was I was just banging out a bunch of games. What I do is I hunt for easy victims, or I make a list of games I think might be easy to kill off and get on my kill list. So when I played this, I was kind of on the hunt, trying out various games to try to see which ones I could break through in. So the purpose of the session was not to play this for a very long time. It was just to beat it and move on, pretty much, and move on to the next game. So, yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.